This guy played a chess game just by looking at the pieces. He's completely paralyzed below his shoulders, but he loves playing chess. As you can see, he's not moving his hands at all. When we play a chess game, we either use the mouse, the touchpad, or we physically move the pieces in OTB games. But he's just moving the cursor with his brain. This is the first game in history played with a brain implant. He has the white pieces and he goes pawn to d4, his opponent goes knight to f6, and we have bishop to f4, and that is the London system. Loved by many, hated by many, but this guy's playing it, he likes it, and his opponent goes pawn to d5. Now we have knight to f3, developing the pieces, setting up the London structure. His opponent goes pawn to e6, and we have pawn to e3 on the board. This is all theory. Pawn to c5, still theory. c3 and pawn to c4 is not a great move, just removing the tension in the center really early. Now he goes knight b to d2, maybe setting up a pawn break on e4. He goes pawn to b5, beautiful, throwing up a pawn storm on the queen side of the board. Now we have pawn to e4, that's a little bit early. You know, this pawn is attacked 2 times and it is only defended once, so that is a free pawn. But his opponent doesn't take it, he goes bishop to b7. Okay, now you can get rid of the pawn in different ways. You can take on d5, you can go pawn to e5, which is even better, gaining some space, kicking the knight away of f6, but he goes bishop to e2, just blundering the pawn on e4. That's fine, it's just a pawn. Opponent takes the pawn, knight to e5, and bishop to d6, developing the bishop, getting ready to castle, putting pressure on the knight on e5. Now we castle, they take on e5 with the bishop, giving us the bishop pair, beautiful, we like that. We can take on e5 with the bishop. He goes knight to d7, and now the knight is not on f6 anymore, so that is a free pawn, and that's what he does. He takes the pawn on g7. Opponent goes rook to g8, attacking the bishop, and he goes back with the bishop to e5. This is not a great move. They can just take the bishop, and when you take back, there's knight to d7, and it is impossible to protect this pawn. However, opponent didn't go for that. He went queen to g5, threatening checkmate in only one move. Now we go bishop to g3, just closing the g file, so we don't have to worry about that checkmate anymore. Opponent goes pawn to e5 at this point, trying to distract the bishop. If you take that, then this would be checkmate, so that is not a good idea. Now we go queen to c2, putting pressure on the pawn on e4, and we have pawn to f5. Defending the pawn on e4, threatening pawn to f4, trapping this bishop, and he goes pawn to h3. Opponent goes pawn to f4, and this is a small blunder because now we have knight takes e4, attacking the queen. And if you take that knight, we can just take back with the queen, attacking the rook on a8. But instead in the game, he went bishop to h2, blundering checkmate in one move. Luckily for everyone in the universe, his opponent did not find this. He went pawn to f3, threatening checkmate again. Instead of going for checkmate right away, he just said, you know what, let's threaten that one more time. 2 were not enough. So now we go pawn to g3, and at this point he said this.
Oh, I think I just got checkmated.
So now he realized he was falling for checkmate, so he had to go pawn to g3. Now, opponent of course takes the bishop on e2, we have rook to e1 getting out of danger. Pawn to e3, that is the best engine move. I'm gonna tell you why. See, he actually found this in like 5 seconds, that's impressive. If you take that pawn, there's queen takes e3, and this is checkmate. You can't go to h1 or g2 because of the bishop on b7. You can't go to f1 because of this pawn, and the queen controls these squares. This is checkmate. But he actually didn't even take it. He went knight to f3, beautiful move, attacking the queen. The problem is, that knight is not defended by anyone. Luckily, again, his opponent didn't even take it. He went pawn takes f2 with a check. Now there's king takes f2, bishop takes f3, and king takes f3. Now his opponent went pawn to e4 check, pawn defended of course by John Cena. Queen takes e4 with a check, that's a double check to the king and to the rook on a8. So as soon as he moved the king, there's queen takes a8, that's what he did in the game. Queen to d2, that looks like a good move. You know, you're activating the queen, getting the queen on the second file, molesting the rooks. However, that move is really not threatening anything. The queen was in a way better square on g5. Here, you're just defending this pawn, which is a very passive idea. So now, he goes king to g2, getting out of these checks, which he does actually. He goes rook to f8, cutting off the way of the king on the f file. Now we have queen to d5, pinning the knight on d7. Queen to e3, maybe with the idea of breaking into the f file, rook to f2, or maybe queen to f2. And now he goes bishop to g1, the best engine move, preventing any entry on f2, attacking the queen, very active move. Queen goes back to d2, and now we have queen takes b5, just grabbing a pawn, why not? queen to e3, and now we have a check on g5. Once he covers with the knight, which is defended by the rook, now he goes queen to e3, offering a queen trade, the first queen trade offer of the game. No, that is not a queen blunder, it is defended by the bishop on g1. He doesn't want to exchange queens. The problem is this pawn is not defended by enough pieces. Rook takes e2, knight takes g3. Wait, is that a free knight? Wait a minute. Nope, because if you take that knight, then the queen is not defending this rook anymore, and that is a free rook with a check. Instead, he went queen to e7 check with a fork. Yes, the queen can also fork. The knight is not the only piece that can fork. They go king to c8, that is the only legal move. Queen takes rook, king to b7, rook to e7 check, and the king goes to the corner. There are multiple checkmates here, but he went queen to f3 check. You know what? Forcing the queen trade, making things a little bit easier. This is totally winning for white. But his opponent didn't even see that he could take the queen. He went knight to c6, and he resigned the game. There's nothing to do. This is checkmate in only 2 moves. King to b8 and queen to b7 is checkmate. And just like that, the first game ever played with a Neuralink brain implant was concluded. He won the game while he was in an interview, focusing on the questions and on the game at the same time. That deserves a statue or something. Anyway, if you liked the video, make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next game.